And it is time for the hot topic of the hour. President-elect Trump filling up his cabinet with two new appointments. Former acting attorney general under Trump, Matt Whitaker, tapped as NATO ambassador. He'll be tasked with pressuring countries in the alliance to increase their defense spending, renewing an effort Trump undertook in his first term. Trump also nominating Michigan GOP chair Pete Hoekstra for U.S. ambassador to Canada. Hoekstra was the U.S. ambassador to the Netherlands during Trump's first term after serving 18 years as a Michigan congressman. He also chaired the House Intelligence Committee for a moment. VP-elect Vance returning to Capitol Hill today, meeting with senators about cabinet nominees, securing support for Defense Secretary nominee Pete Hegseth and Attorney General nominee Matt Gaetz, who met with Senate Judiciary Committee members yesterday, along with incoming Majority Leader John Thune. The House Ethics Committee failing to reach an agreement over whether to release the report on its investigation into Matt Gaetz's alleged sexual misconduct allegations. Outgoing Pennsylvania Congresswoman Susan Wild says the matter is not closed and the committee is reconvening on December 5th. Illinois Congressman Sean Casten, meanwhile, pushing for a floor vote to force the release of that report. Meanwhile, the search is on for the next Treasury Secretary. An announcement could come by the end of this week. Trump met with Apollo Global CEO Mark Rowan yesterday, as new reports reveal he's looking more seriously at Tennessee Senator Bill Hagerty, who was spotted in Texas with the president-elect at Elon Musk's SpaceX launch Tuesday. Other contenders include former Federal Reserve Governor Kevin Warsh and Scott Bessent, the founder of hedge fund Key Square Group. The president-elect also reportedly mulling a position dedicated solely to cryptocurrency policy, which would interact with regulators, including the Securities and Exchange Commission and the Commodities Futures Trading Commission. Trump also expected to name Russ Vought as director of the Office of Management and Budget. Vought would be in charge of developing the proposed budget and implementing the president's agenda across the federal government, having a large influence on the agencies Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy's Department of Government Efficiency want to cut to or eliminate. Got a lot coming up this morning on all of that. Tricia, your reaction?
Anyone who hasn't yet read that Wall Street Journal piece by Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk, I highly recommend it. Very much a blueprint for how they're going to cut savings, cut regulations, cut personnel. It's going to be very essential, but also looking at the mechanics of this. While it's going to be on the outside of government, Vivek and Elon, they also are going to have people embedded, definitely lawyers. I don't think that they could have gotten this done during the first Trump administration because they didn't have some of that Supreme Court precedent, like West Virginia versus EPA, which is basically saying some of these federal regulations simply are not constitutional.
Yeah, and Musk and Vivek laid it out, as you said, in that op-ed this morning in the Wall Street Journal. It's their vision for the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. The agency will pursue three major kinds of reform: regulatory recessions, administrative reductions, and cost savings. There'll be a focus on driving change through executive action based on existing legislation rather than by passing new laws. It will focus on cutting the federal workforce, identifying the minimum number of workers to perform agency functions, and require employees to come into the office 5 days a week. The agency will work to end federal overspending by taking aim at the $500 billion plus in federal expenditures that are unauthorized by Congress. They'll also conduct large-scale audits of unexamined federal contracts during a temporary suspension of payments. Vivek Ramaswamy told me a bit about it on Sunday. Watch.
We want to go right in through executive action to do the failures of the executive branch that need to be addressed. Because the dirty little secret right now, Maria, is the people we elect to run the government, they're not the ones who actually run the government. It's the unelected bureaucrats in the administrative state. That was created through executive action. It's going to be fixed through executive action. We're going to be cutting costs. Over $500 billion that's spent every year right now was not even authorized by Congress in the first place. Part of this is exposing for the public the extent of that rot and waste, but then to take steps first through executive action and then laying the groundwork for broader change through legislation as well to rein in that deficit, to rein in that budget. We expect mass reductions. We expect certain agencies to be deleted outright. We expect mass reductions in force in areas of the federal government that are bloated. We expect massive cuts among federal contractors and others who are overbilling the federal government.
Yesterday, Musk posted on X that he shared famed economist Milton Friedman's opinion about how bloated government has become, writing Milton Friedman was the best, and shared this interview.
Department of Agriculture.
Abolish.
Gone.
Oh, man.
Department of Commerce.
Abolish.
Gone. Department of Defense.
Keep.
Keep it. Department of Education.
Abolish.
Gone. Energy.
Abolish.
From 14 departments down to four and a
Basic
half.
fundamental
4.5.
functions. What are its fundamental functions? Preserve the peace, defend the country.
All right.
Provide a mechanism whereby individuals can adjudicate their disputes. That's the Justice Department. Protect individuals from being coerced by other individuals. The police function.
Great that Musk tweeted out that interview. Mark Tepper, your reaction?
Well, I mean, the great thing about Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy is that they are business owners, right? They understand dollars and cents. And when you look at, this whole potential of us eliminating government agencies outright, you got to ask yourself a question. Do these agencies add value? Is there a positive ROI, return on investment? And if the answer is no, if you can eliminate a department or an agency and the results, the outcome, the performance, there's no degradation in any of those areas, you don't need the agency. It's wasteful spending. And I love, one of the things Vivek mentioned during the primary debate, the very first one, was zero baseline budgeting, which a lot of businesses use, whereby you don't just roll over expenses from the prior year. You start every year with no expenses, and then you start to add in what's relevant at that point in time. And the issue with our government is we have a track record of allocating money to certain programs, and no matter how unsuccessful those programs are, we keep putting money there,
And Congress is going to also be assisting here in its own role. Look, this is one way to really start attacking the $36 trillion in debt. Jonathan.
Yeah, this is great that we're doing this. And something similar was tried in 1982 called the Grace Commission. And they found out that 1/3 of every tax dollar was either wasted or abused or was just basically lost. And what happened after that? Well, we still have the same problem. But I think it's different with Vivek and Elon Musk because they've done things that no one's ever done. I mean, Elon Musk started a car company from scratch and is the most successful, most valuable car company now. So I am optimistic, but it will be hard. But it's very well worth doing, and everyone agrees there's
about
waste and
time.
abuse.
Great idea.
Exactly.